Live, I said, and lots to talk about today, including the fact that Bayern Munich look to have identified the man who will be taking over next season, and that man is Vincent Kompany. Reports say that he will be replacing Thomas Tuchel. We obviously know about his incredible accomplishments as a player, as a manager, his best achievements coming with Burnley, who he had promoted to the Premier League, and then the following season, relegation back down to England's second tier with a 19th place finish. Let's welcome in Nedum and Archie Rhind-Tutt to talk more about this now. And I want to start with you, Archie, because this is where we are finding ourselves now, with Bayern Munich looking at Vincent Kompany taking over the role there. So what direction is it that they're looking at here? What's the thought in bringing Kompany in?
Firstly, he's a coach that wants to come to them. And as you might be aware, they have been turned down a lot in recent weeks and months even. So that Vincent Kompany is interested in the job is the first thing. I think that he's worked under Pep Guardiola and that the Bayern hierarchy have a good relationship with Pep Guardiola, I think is something that will have taken place here, and there will have been conversations there as well. But also that he wants to try and play an attractive style of football will have played a role. And even though he has been relegated with Burnley this season, I think that Bayern are in such a position themselves where they're in a state of distress. The situation is acute. They are not used to being turned down as many times as they have been. So they are having to take a risk here. And Vincent Kompany is benefiting from the status that he earned himself as a player. And having worked under Pep Guardiola, I think those are very important factors here for why he's being considered for the job.
So what's the reaction been to this in Germany, Archie?
Finally. Finally is the reaction, because, okay, if I'm it feels like a pub quiz question already. Can you name all the Bayern? Can you name all the coaches that have turned down Bayern? Because Nagelsmann, Tuchel, Rangnick, Glasner, De Zerbi, Xabi Alonso as well. And maybe this is also the way to look at it, is that Bayern are maybe trying to make their own version of Xabi Alonso in terms of benefiting from somebody who was a world-class player and seeing if they are able to reproduce that. But there are so many things that Vincent Kompany has to juggle. That he will, I think, from Bayern's perspective, not have the biggest say in transfers and not got that weight that he's coming with as a reputation will help them in terms of the dynamic that they work with him in. But dealing with that dressing room, dealing with the massive upheaval that's going on at Bayern Munich, let alone having to deal with the pressures that come with managing that club. And if you drop a point, then people are going to be on your back.
Oh, well, Nedum, you know Kompany better than any of us do. I think you actually call him Vinny. Is he up for this job?
Yeah, he's absolutely up for this job. I think the timing of it, as Archie said, is probably perfect for him, and it's a great opportunity. You know, when I first met Vinny, it was actually in Germany when he was playing for Hamburg, and his understanding of the Bundesliga and stuff was very much there. I think the value of him, you know, being a former Man City player, someone who's played in that league, someone who understands German football, I think that is key. But also to sort of reference a point, which I'm sure we'll get to, a lot of people are looking at the way that Burnley played this season, the fact that they went down and saying, well, maybe this is a job that's too big for him. But you go back a year and he had 101 points in the Championship, and they were saying, oh, this is a guy that can go here, can go anywhere. Maybe he could be linked to City. Maybe he could be going to Spurs and stuff like this. And I did consider that interesting, because all of a sudden in a year, is he a bad manager now? Well, for me, I don't believe so. I think some of the noise that was around his name last year was because of, say, certain coaching styles that he had. Maybe the style of football, maybe the way he carried himself, maybe the way that, he had a vision for a young side to improve and how he could do that with players. So I think he's still the same manager. Obviously, the Premier League ended up being too difficult for himself and the team. But I believe he can go there and can do well. I think the profile of manager that maybe Bayern need in this moment is probably more suited to a Vincent Kompany, and someone that's maybe a bit, I don't know, perhaps more experienced, someone that's a bit more hardened. And I think he's someone who will arrive there without the ego, but will arrive with belief, and he will command a level of respect. And as Archie said, it's Bayern Munich. You can't really be dropping points on a week-to-week basis. But I think Vincent understands that. And I think it's going to be a great test for him, because now he's going to be surrounded by some of the best players in the world.
Well, that's a big point, isn't it? Big stars here. We've seen some footage of him in the dressing room at Burnley, really showing and stamping his authority, showing those leadership skills and giving his players a dressing down. Will he be able to do that, be so direct and authoritative with Bayern's big stars?
Well, that's part of managing, right? You need to figure out who are the players that you can get after and the players that you leave alone. And that's part of reading a locker room. That's part of reading players, of developing a relationship with players. So wherever he would have gone in the world, he would have had to have done that. Now, that all gets magnified when you talk about Bayern Munich, because whenever you mention Bayern Munich and the coaching position, it's not only about whether you can actually put a starting lineup together or run a training session, it's how you handle the machine of Bayern Munich. And the machine of Bayern Munich actually has to do more with what's going on above you and the pressures and the politics of the club. And maybe he's coming in not knowing a whole lot about that, and that's probably better for him in that there are no scars there and that there are no bad thoughts or preconceived notions. He comes in thinking about, I'm going to coach the team, and perhaps that all works out. And maybe this is a wonderful solution for Bayern Munich. But let's not kid ourselves. They have stumbled, if indeed this ends up being great for Bayern Munich, they have stumbled upon this solution. They have taken the scenic route to get to this point. He wasn't first choice, second choice, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or sixth. They've gone through a list of managers who they thought would be suited for Bayern Munich, far before they even consider Vincent Kompany. So this may end up working out. Give him a chance. I'm all for Vincent Kompany, and I'm all for his style of play. I want that to be the case for Bayern Munich, and I want him to do well at Bayern Munich. But man, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered, and he's going to have to answer a lot of those questions himself. Never mind the club. He's going to have to be the one that is facing the media, that he's going to face in the press if things are not going well. He's going to be at the forefront of every decision made at this club, certainly when it comes to player personnel out on the field.
And dealing with the board, as you mentioned, which becomes part and parcel with being Bayern coach. How do you think he'd fare in that aspect, Nedum?
To be honest, I think he'd be fine. I think he's young enough to have an understanding about, say, the way that things are done at different places. I think he's very open-minded. He's very much a student. It sounds like a cliche, but he's a student of the game and a student of surroundings as well. I think he's very good at being attentive to, say, whether it's players, whether it's some of the staff that are around him, maybe it's some of the people that are above him. And I don't think Vinny's a very, very intelligent person. Even though what Ali's saying is probably true in terms of him not being first, second, third, fourth choice or whatever, I think he knows what's going to be involved for the job of being at Bayern Munich. Having been someone, as I say, who's played in that league, somebody who has peers in that league, somebody who would be watching that league, you know, from a distance as well. I don't think he'll be surprised by anything as such. Maybe the workload will be great, but I think he's prepared to do it. And I think that is something that kind of sets him apart, because when I speak to people who, you know, have been coached by him or people work alongside him, they say he is very, very impressive. So for me, I hope that he does well. There's no guarantee of success, obviously, but I'm sure he'll be doing everything he can to sort of manage all those little relationships that go with being the head coach at Bayern Munich.
When it comes, obviously, to Bayern, you're going to have your young stars, but then some of the stars are veterans. As we know, Shaka, you've got your Harry Kanes and your Manuel Neuers, and this is a young manager in Vincent Kompany. How does that play out?
I'll be honest, I'm concerned. First of all, let me say, I hope Vincent Kompany does well. I wish him the absolute best. But managing Burnley and Anderlecht has no similarities to managing Bayern Munich outside of I've got to pick 11 players to start the game. Everything about, you talk about the authority that he showed in addressing his dressing room at Burnley, that works at Burnley when you're Vincent Kompany and you have the playing career that you do. It doesn't at Bayern Munich. When half the dressing room can match, certainly in terms of numbers of trophies, exactly what you've done. And then kind of given that a lot of those players would have played against Vincent Kompany as a player, there's just, to say this is a risk is as understated as I can possibly get. And to Nedum's point, while last year in leading Burnley to 101 points in the championship, and Vincent Kompany being linked with Manchester City one day, maybe even a Tottenham Hotspur, a year on, nobody's having those conversations. And then all of a sudden, Bayern Munich just kind of comes to the fore, falls into Vincent Kompany, as Ali put it. But in terms of Vincent's lack of experience, especially at that level, in terms of recruiting, managing the squad that he's got? What changes do you make when you go a goal down or two, when the manager's sitting in the other dugouts is a Carlo Ancelotti? All those things are lessons he's going to have to learn on the job. And for me, I just think you don't go to Bayern Munich to work on your learning curve. You go there when you're just about the finished article.
And to add to that, Shaq, there's the context of the success of Xabi Alonso. So now there's a perhaps unrealistic expectation as to what a young manager should do, could do, when will do in the case of Vincent Kompany. There's going to be that comparison of, wait a second. Xabi Alonso, unbeaten in 51 matches, won Bundesliga, and that's with Bayer Leverkusen. You now have Bayern Munich in your hands. Why can you not do that? Why can you not achieve that? That's the context of the conversation, and that's the standard that now, unfairly so, I believe, he's going to be compared to and evaluated against. But the young manager is capable of doing it. You don't need all that experience because you can come right in and you can make a difference. And again, that would be unfairly so and unrealistic to expect that. And yet again, the expectations for Bayern Munich are that they're going to win everything all the time. Look, it may work out, but this is a big leap. It's a major leap. And I don't think that we can deny. It's a major leap for Vincent Kompany.
He is obviously, Archie, stepping into a role, as Ali just said, where you are expected to win everything all the time, every single competition that you're in. Would that still be the same objectives with Vincent Kompany?
Absolutely. It's compulsory at Bayern, no matter who has the job. And I've been going back through their last coaches, and I can't think of anybody who has been as, I'd say, so far down the pecking order as unfancied as him. But that will give him, should, in a positive light, maybe take the pressure off him a little bit, because the expectations will maybe be that little bit lower from what people might expect of him. That he speaks German fluently is a big tick in the column, but there are a few things that still need to be ratified about this deal, which I think we should still remember, which is compensation still got to be agreed with Burnley, who have seen what Bayern were prepared to offer for Oliver Glasner, which was some 20 million euros. And now Burnley want something along those lines as well, which is a lot of money for a coach when you consider that Bayern paid just over that for Julian Nagelsmann as well. And then also, despite what I think the way that the Bayern hierarchy might be leaning because of the Pep Guardiola associations here, they have also been pretty stern in turning down coaches so far if they don't like them, if members of the board don't like them. I look at Thomas Tuchel, even after what he achieved, and they weren't prepared to offer him a further than a one-year deal, and they weren't prepared to admit their mistakes with Julian Nagelsmann as well. So it still needs to get ratified there, but it's looking the most likely option right now, particularly when you consider all of the dynamics which are involved. But yeah, to come back to your original question, Kay, you simply have to win every week. And when you've won 11 titles in a row up to this season, in a way, how much you can actually win as coach of Bayern Munich has been reduced. I think that's why the job has become slightly less sexy for many people, and it's become almost fashionable for people to turn down as well. But Vincent Kompany, with the way that things have gone with Burnley, he would have gone back into the Championship. To go from that to the Champions League now is, of course, a huge step.
Just out of interest, Nedum, have you ever been shouted at by Vincent Kompany?
Have I been shouted at? No, do you know what? I don't think I have. I understood where he was coming from, but then also I did like hook him up with his wife. So realistically, could he ever be mad at me?
What a flex!
Man.
Okay, we have lost. We have lost all objectivity in this conversation.
Matchmaker. He's a manure, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh,
All right, we better move on, shall we?
That's right.
Former Bayern manager.
You
Hansi
win,
Flick.
Nedum. You win.
Former Bayern manager Hansi Flick has been linked with the Barcelona job should Xavi be given his marching orders at the end of this season. In fact, he has emerged as one of the leading candidates to take over. Flick, the favourite, and meeting with Flick, according to reports over in Spain. Archie, just out of interest, what is Flick's stock right now in Germany? How is he viewed?
Damaged. From where it was after winning the Champions League with Bayern, where he was, I think, he became one of the most reputed coaches in world football. What then happened with the German national team has severely damaged his stock. Most of all, the documentary that came out showing what happened at the 2022 World Cup, and this infamous video of letting the geese fly and let's be like the geese. That has not helped the way that he's seen in Germany, but it was always said about Hansi Flick of how well he works with big personalities, and how still, even after his sacking as Germany national team coach, nobody was coming out against him in the press, and he's maintained good relationships. The question is, would his style of high-risk football work at Barcelona from the off? Because when Bayern were good under him, they were still taking huge risks. It relied on Alphonso Davies being the best version of himself and sweeping up behind. And it's great when it works, but there are a lots of dangers as well that come with it. Working abroad as well, how he would deal with the media, that's something that I don't think he likes to do, as we've seen both in real life and in, a documentary is documenting that as well. But the point is that he's somebody who I think has an edge to him when it comes to the way that he behaves with the media. And so how he would deal with the pressures of that at a club like Barcelona is something that I would watch out for.
What do you think of Flick as Barcelona coach, Ali?
Well, if we're going to go down the line of the same conversation that Archie was just mentioning there, high-risk manager in terms of the way that they play, entertaining, going to score goals, but does it resolve the issues that Barcelona have defensively? No. And if you watch Barcelona play this season, they didn't have issues scoring goals as much as they had issues preventing other teams from scoring goals. And this is just a tactical, technical conversation. But I don't think that John Laporta and Barcelona are interested in having a guy who is actually going to have a team that is going to defend well. Because part of the reason that we're having this conversation is because Xavi was saying, listen, we need to calm down with the expectations on this club. We got our issues. We got problems. And because he brought attention to that, then apparently the Barcelona hierarchy got all worked up. I don't think you resolve anything with bringing in Hansi Flick. I don't think you make it any better because you're still got your hands tied in terms of the player acquisition and what you can do to address some of the issues that you have had in this team in terms of lack of depth and in terms of the financial situation that it doesn't go away. I honestly think, and this is my opinion, in my own opinion, I don't believe that Xavi is going anywhere. I don't believe that Hansi Flick is actually a true, real candidate. Because if you have a team that cannot afford to buy players, why would you go buy or go pay a manager? It doesn't make sense. If you have financial limitations, then why put yourself into further financial limitations? And if that's the truth about Barcelona, then I think all of this is a smokescreen. I think Xavi stays. And if it's not Xavi, it's not Flick, I think they go down to Rafa Marquez and say, hey, you resolve the issue because you're going to cost less money.